I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Anybody have any changes to the agenda? We're just going to leave 7 on there till, okay. If there's no changes, I'd hear a motion to approve the agenda.
Make a motion we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Mike, a second by Robin. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, state no. Agenda is carried. Guests and open forum. Is there anybody here tonight that would like to address the council? All right. We'll move on to committee reports, presentations, and awards. Budget and Finance Committee.
Budget and Finance met October 21st. We had some discussions about the healthcare renewal and the enterprise budget updates. We'll be hearing those in our executive session tonight. Went through our standard financials. Everything looks good. Past due notices were sent to 82 properties, totaling $25,833, which is fewer properties but higher value than last year. And that is about it.
All right. Any questions for Budget and Finance? Fire Relief. Mark, are you going to do that?
You bet. Not too much to update on. We did have our quarterly meeting on the 22nd of October. Primary discussion was around the transition to the para plan. So just talking about all the logistics and timing of the transition with that. Otherwise, just treasurer's report and a few other minor items. So.
All right. Thank you very much. Planning Commission.
Planning Commission met last Monday. We had a couple public hearings and we're dealing with them tonight on 8C and D. We discussed the open seat and when we're advertising for that to get candidates. And then we had an update on development update on what's going on.
Okay. Any questions for Mike? Joint Planning Board?
Joint Planning met last Tuesday. We heard one setback variance application, and that was all we had.
All right. Moving on to item number 7, the Guardian Angels conduit debt.
So, Mayor Colburn, City Council members, the council did pass a resolution a couple of meetings ago calling for a public hearing on this night, but the applicant failed to get the notice into the paper, or actually was published in the wrong paper, not our paper. That has been done. It was published on the 1st, I believe, and at that notice called for a meeting on a public hearing on the 18th. That is, the original resolution that was passed by the council also allowed for a later date than that called for. So the fact that the notice has now been published, that we are announcing it here at this night, tonight, that public hearing is postponed till November 18th at 5 o'clock will suffice for the meeting notice. So it will be on the next agenda.
Sounds good. All right, moving on to board, committee, and consultant reports. Wastewater handling agreement with Excel Energy. Mr. Knutson.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I didn't time that very well. I was kind of behind in my pace. In front of you tonight, we've got the RO reject water. We've been working with Excel Energy. If you want to go back to the ash leachate agreement, it mirrors it very, very closely. The main difference, 2 parts. One of them, the makeup of the water is slightly different, almost identical, but nothing that's going to harm the plant or hurt the plant. We do have capacity that we could pull this into play. We've been going back and forth with them for probably 6 months on this thing. The other thing that's different is they're going to work on a direct discharge using one of their existing sanitary discharge mechanisms at the plant, so we can eliminate some of the truck traffic that's going on. By doing that, we're calling for them to put in, we get to be on site and approve their discharge format. We get to approve the valve, so we can control that valve if we need to shut them down. And we get to control and review and inspect, or they've got to perform the inspections on the flow meters, so we know exactly how much discharge is coming into the plant. The one thing that we're looking to do with this agreement tonight is ask you for, we're basically starting this as a trial period. And instead of coming back, there's milestones they have to hit, hit every few weeks as we ramp this process up. We're starting with a low volume of water, and if they pass all of the parameters of that and things are going well at the plant, we'd give them the green light to increase again, and we do that over 8 weeks to get it up to full production. They can produce this over the winter while the leachate is shut down, and we can see how it's going to handle the plant, and then we can slowly feed leachate back in the spring to see if it works. What they've asked us to do, and if they're hitting the parameters, we would want to do this going forward through the duration of our current discharge permit at the plant. But instead of coming back to get a long-term agreement, is just to move this into a permanent agreement if they've hit all of those milestones with staff. So this agreement then could run concurrent with the expiration of our existing permit, and then it would be up for review again. So we did talk this through. SCH, our consulting engineers, have been involved from the start. They're supportive of what we're doing. Legal has reviewed the agreement and found no issues with that. It creates an opportunity for us. We're not displacing any future growth or development for the community. It's just another way that we can bring in another stream, help one of our partners, and bring in some additional revenue. The goal with that revenue is to work with finance and offset that for future improvements or any plant expansion that we would need to try and get a feeder going on some of those funds. So we don't want to count our chickens before they're hatched. If you approve this tonight, we feel pretty positive about what this can do, but they also know that if there's any negative impact, it's going to get shut down. So, and with that, I can stand for any questions should you have them.
All right, any questions for Phil?
Yeah, we had discussed this at Public Works also. Public Works Committee is in support of it, so.
Correct. Yes, and we appreciate that.
Awesome. Well, if there's no further questions, then we would look for a motion on Resolution 2586, a resolution accepting a wastewater handling agreement between the City of Becker and Xcel Energy. The Sherco RO reject water would be, it would just be appreciated. That's the resolution we're looking for.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Trouble reading tonight. All right, we have a motion by Rick, second by Mike. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, state no. Motion carries. Should be all set. Thank you very much for your work on that.
Thank you, guys.
Next up, supplemental letter agreement with SCH for the 2026 street improvements. Mr. Knutson again.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. In front of you tonight, we're looking at this time of year, we always bring in an SLA. The engineering services for our street improvements are outside the scope of our master agreement, so we need to perform something like this with SCH to come in. About 3 or 4 years ago, I think we worked with Budget Finance to pull some of our CIP funding a year earlier so we could get the engineering work started, so we can do some of the survey work, the topo work out in the field, and we're not going out of sequence. We're not asking for next year's funding. We've got it dedicated this year. So with that, we're looking to do the same thing again this year to kind of queue up our street improvements. There's already one underway. We kept Edgewood Street separate, and the work is already done. Plans are, what are we, 75, 80%?
70%.
Okay, all right, so I was jumping the gun a little bit. But that one's separate, and the reason we're keeping that separate is that's eligible for MSAS funding. So if we need to go that route, we'll keep all of that separated. This one is going to be under our standard street levy that we're looking at, so we'll keep this under one separate agreement, and we'll code it that way with finance as well. So the streets that we're looking at doing this year, it's a little bit. Some of our massive stuff has been done, so now we're kind of picking apart, what's our next top things. We went through, staff has looked at it several times. Our field engineers have been out here looking at it, confirming what we're looking to do. But the streets that we're recommending right now for reclaim and work, Hillcrest Road, Pineview Drive from River Street to Rolling Ridge Road, street connection improvements to Jade Street and 35th over in the east side of town, Martin Drive, Carroll Drive, Abbey Avenue to Laura Circle, Abbey Avenue, and Twyla Avenue. That'll get that section of town, for the most part, taken care of, with the exception of Laura Circle and Luann Drive. And we'll look to do that in probably 2 years. Along with this, we're also gonna include a public works facility, the Gardner Street Shop, that new parking lot that's being proposed. It'll come from that CIP, but we're gonna lump it in with our street projects for economy of scale on that, to take a look at that. So, also as an alternate, we'll continue it back this year, Birdie Lane. With the change over at Birdie Lane, we're not sure if the new owner is going to want to have the city perform those services, but we'll bring it into the bid as an alternate so we can show him the cost to build it to our standards. And we've offered that we can run the project. It would be a pass-through cost. We'll be able to capture all the costs associated with that and do it as a pass-through. I think it'd be easier for the developer. We've already had conversations to that end, and we'll see where it goes, but we'll hold it as an alternate so the contractor bidding the project knows that. So, again, this work is for design phase, engineering, the survey work, and the bidding process. Should this move forward, you allow us to take the next step and we get it out to bid and we get to award, we'll bring back another SLA for construction management services. I don't like to muddy the waters and make any assumptions and put those dollars out there. We'll do that when the project's there. It seems to work well for everybody that way. So, again, with that, I can stand for any questions, should you have them.
All right, anybody have any questions for Phil? If not, we look for a motion on resolution 2585, a resolution approving a supplemental letter agreement with SEH for the 2026 street improvements.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion by Mike, a second by Robin. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, state no. Motion's carried.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, Energy Park 10th Edition Preliminary and Final Plat. Mr. Peterson.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As you said, it is Energy Park 10th Edition that we're here for tonight. It's a preliminary and final plat. Those are attached as Exhibit A and Exhibit B accordingly. The applicants for this were the City of Becker and Potter Investments, LLC. The area of this plat is about 143.85 acres within Energy Park. The location of this is Section 6, Township 33, Range 28 of Sherburne County, and the zoning is Industrial Park, or IP. In the comprehensive plan, it's guided for industrial, and the purpose of this consolidates multiple parcels into 5 industrial lots and 1 outlot for drainage and utility purposes, including a roadway. In the past, Resolution 2562 did vacate the easements in that area, just as a note. Planning Commission did hold a review of this, as well as a public hearing on October 27th of this year. No written or verbal comments were received, and Planning Commission did adopt Resolution PC 2510 for the preliminary plat, as well as Resolution PC 2511 for the final plat that we're recommending approval. Summary of the findings were that it was consistent with the comprehensive plan and industrial park zoning district. It meets the subdivision design standards of the UDO, provides adequate access to existing and future municipal utilities, and it's compatible with surrounding industrial uses and development pattern, and it will not create any undue financial burden or infrastructure impacts. And it supports growth in the industrial park or energy park, which we're looking for. One thing I did want to touch on, though, is we did add one additional condition since Planning Commission, since the recommendation. And that was specifically after talking with Public Works, as well as we had talked to Mr. Potter himself and made him aware previously. It's regarding the large pile of tree debris located on the southwestern corner of Lot 5, the parcel that's being conveyed to the city as part of that land swap. And so it must be completely removed prior to the recording of the final plat and execution of the documentation. This was added to basically protect the city and ensure that the city gets a clean parcel upon that swap or exchange. And it'll be to the satisfaction of city staff, specifically Public Works on that. A couple other highlights were all required permits and approvals must be obtained before any work begins out there. City engineer comments must be addressed prior to recording. Final plat must be recorded within 1 year of approval. And any lots without utility access must connect per city code as determined by staff and the engineer. So with that, staff would be looking for a motion and a second to adopt resolution 2583, approving the preliminary plat of Energy Park 10th, as well as a motion and a second to adopt resolution 2584, approving the final plat of Energy Park 10th edition. And I could stand for any questions on that one.
All right, anybody have any questions for Austin? All right, look for a motion on resolution 2583 for the preliminary plat of Energy Park 10th.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Robin, second by Mike. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, state no. That carries. And then we would look for a motion on resolution 2584 for the final plat.
I'll make that motion as well.
And I'll second.
Motion by Robin, second by Mike. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, state no. That carries as well. All right, thank you, Austin. And you're up again to talk about cannabis.
Correct. So this item is for City Council consideration of Ordinance 298 Second Series. And this ordinance would update 2 sections of City Code, specifically Chapter 6, Section 6.28, which is the cannabis and hemp-derived products, as well as Article 1, Section 1.14.3, Table of Uses in the UDO, or Unified Development Ordinance. The purpose is to align the City Code with the latest state law under State Statute Chapter 342 and comply with the OCM, or Office of Cannabis Management. And this keeps us consistent in doing that. And so what we did specifically in Chapter 6 is update the outdated terminology to match the new lower potency hemp edible verbiage that they use, and replace some of the cannabinoid terminology to match that. It adds specifically a new cannabis wholesaler and lower potency hemp edible wholesaler, which are new terms that the state has come up with. And that basically clarifies some of our definitions as well in Chapter 6. And again, we cross-referenced State Statute 342 to match that. That's in Chapter 6. And then in the UDO, we updated the table of uses specifically to include cannabis wholesaler and the lower potency hemp edible wholesaler, which we also did clarify which zoning district those are allowed in. They're prohibited in residential and institutional districts, but they are permitted, as well as some interim use permits in commercial, mixed use, and industrial zone, which is consistent with the state, as well as we kept our existing buffers and separation requirements as well. Those are all still in place. Planning Commission did hold a public hearing for this one on that same meeting on the 27th of October. No written or verbal comment was received, and the Planning Commission unanimously approved Resolution PC 2509. So with that, I'll stand for a motion in a second, or I'll be looking for a motion in a second to adopt Ordinance 298 Second Series, amending Chapter 6 and Article 1 of the Unified Development Ordinance, as well as a motion and a second to approve the Ordinance 298 Second Series summary for publication on November 8th. And then I can stand for any questions.
All right, anybody want to talk to Austin about cannabis? All right, then we would look for a motion to adopt Ordinance 298 Second Series, amending Chapter 6, Section 6.28 of City Code and Article 1 zoning, Section 1.14.3 of the UDO.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Rick, second by Mike. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, state no. That carries, and then we would need a motion and a second to approve the series summary for publishing.
And I'll make that motion as well.
And I'll second.
Motion by Rick, second by Mike to publish it. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, state no. That is carried as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Austin. Continue on with the Austin Peterson Show,
Yeah.
number 9. Now we have a housing infrastructure grant acceptance.
Yes.
Probably a little excited to talk about this one, huh?
A little more exciting, maybe.
All right, that's awesome.
So yeah, tonight it's basically to formally accept the Greater Minnesota Housing Infrastructure Grant Award, specifically for the Luann Drive infrastructure project or extension. And so the city received notice from the Minnesota Housing that Becker was awarded the full requested amount, which was $430,325 under the 2025 Greater Minnesota Housing Infrastructure Grant Program. So that funding specifically is going to support Luann Drive to extend it to Edgewood Street Southeast. Some background on this is I was here on June 3rd when City Council authorized staff to apply for the grant through Resolution 2546, which also certified that the city had matching funds available for it. The application was submitted on June 12th, and on October 28th last week, the city was notified that we were selected. Becker's project is one of the 21 awards statewide out of the 48 applicants. The award will fund 50% of eligible construction costs, helping the city move a key project forward. Project extends street water, sanitary sewer, storm sewer, and water main improvements to serve future residential in that area along Luann Drive. The extension opens up land identified in the Becker 2040 Comprehensive Plan for high-density housing. And as we applied for in the grant, it's for potential of about 198 units, including affordable and workforce housing. And it advances the city's goals to expand housing options in the area. And so kind of just a finance piece of it or budget piece is the total estimated project cost is $860,650 with a grant amount of half of that, $430,325. And that city match covers the remaining costs, which are like design, contingency, and administrative expenses. So next steps, now that we have the award, would be staff will coordinate with Minnesota Housing and the engineer SEH to complete the design and any construction, as well as the city will execute a grant agreement required before any funds are released. And so with that, I'd be looking for a motion in a second to adopt Resolution 2582, accepting the Greater Minnesota Housing Infrastructure Grant Award of $430,325. I can stand for any questions.
All right. Anybody have any questions for Austin? No questions, but a huge congratulations to you and all the staff that worked on it. I know that was a lot of time, but time well spent. This is awesome news for the city of Becker and its residents, and that's an area that we can have some things happening soon. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, it was definitely a team effort with finance, specifically Lori, Mark, and Jacob. So thank you.
Hold up. All right. Can all take a lap then, a victory lap. All right. So we need a motion to adopt Resolution 2582 accepting the Greater Minnesota Housing Infrastructure Grant for the Luann Drive Extension Project.
I'll make that a motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Mike, a second by Robin. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, state no. Motion carried. We're happy to take the money. All right. Next up is the consent agenda. Mr. LaRude.
Mayor Kobinger, City Council members, items for approval on tonight's consent agenda for review, approval, and adoption include the revised hiring and termination report, payment of the bills, the minutes of the October 21st, 2025 City Council meeting, the minutes of the October 2nd, 2025 City Council executive session meeting, the minutes of the September 15th, 2025 Fire Board meeting, change order number 11 for the Police Department City Hall project for a reduction in the amount of $10,000. Pay request number 5 in the amount of $90,626.13 to Minnesota Paving and Materials for the 2025 Street Improvement Project. I would like to add one thing regarding the revised hiring and termination report. The police officer is listed there. We are very close to receiving all of the stuff where he's meeting all the requirements. We believe all that will be in before the next meeting. So the request for that is a conditional hire, provided all of that stuff is received and acceptable. That way he can give notice and get started. So just want to make you aware of that.
Okay.
Happy to answer any questions.
All right, any questions for Greg on the consent agenda? If not, we'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Make a motion, we approve the consent agenda as presented.
We have a motion by Mike, second by Rick. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, state no. Consent agenda is carried. We have some anniversary announcements. So at the community center, we have Amber Gilbertson with 8 years of service and Matt Krenz with 7. And the golf course, Kyler Klein with 6. And also at the golf course, Jason Scharfenkamp, our superintendent, with 10 years. And Chris Lisson at Public Works, 10 years.
Yay.
All right. Thanks for being here and being very enthusiastic about that. Thanks to all our employees. We appreciate your continued work for us. I just had a couple quick things. A big thank you to Shannon. She beat the chickens up this morning. She was up early to come in and help the school district with their election. So thank you, Shannon. This was a very long day for you. Thank you for doing that. Last Tuesday, I got to go on a little tour with Jacob with the Just Transition Fund. Jacob did an awesome job. Had a tour around Becker, and he was also on a panel, and I heard many great things. And they said they were going to keep an eye on you Tuesday night at the conference, so I told them Jacob can get kind of crazy, I figured. So we had like 32 babysitters for him there. So thanks for going along with that, Jacob. And a big thank you to Phil for being at the County Road 23 open house last week. He stood up there and took everything they gave to him and did a very nice job. So Phil, thank you for being there for that. Anybody else have anything that should come before council tonight? If not, we would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Robin, second by Rick. All in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Meeting's adjourned at 5:28. And we'll take a couple minute break and then get started with the exec session.
If anybody would like to borrow my copy of IQ magazine, you can.
You can talk to anybody you want if you need info. Figured you needed something.
So I need your phone number.
290-1275. It's on the city website too.
Did I give you the calendar yet?
No.
I didn't get one.
Wait, thank you.
First year.
What's your official?
For city record.
Budgets are up first. I couldn't remember, I didn't print it.
So did you vote today? Got to do your civic duty.
Do my best.
Give it a shot.
I was surprised that I was there about probably 11 o'clock,
You know that the
something like that, and there was 300 and I was 382, which surprised me because it's all it is a school. And
Where are we voting? Yeah, because we can vote till 8 o'clock, right? Where, is it at the school?
Big one.
No, it's at the community center.
Oh, it is? Oh, okay.
Houses, but
That's the official polling place for the city of Becker now.
I knew we did our other ones there, but for some reason I thought it was at the school, but, okay.
School doesn't have the space for it anymore.
There was quite a bit of traffic coming in and out of there when I left my house at
Thank you.
4:15. Thank you.
Oh, we got our.
But all there is one candidate unopposed,
Yeah.
and then
Oh, it's Renee.
and then the referendum, yeah.
thank you very much. Have a great night.
Oh, we got the new city hall on there, wow.
With the dirt lot. So years ago, when I used to design websites, I got a picture like this, you know, we'd be designing for a company and we'd say, you know, send us a picture of your business and we'll put it on the website. And they sent a picture kind of like this and it had all the dirt and everything, and we're like, we can't put that on your website, you know, you gotta look like a PGA green or something. So I photoshopped in a whole bunch of grass and made it look real nice and everything, and about 3 months later, they called and they're like, we need you to take the grass out. And I'm like, it looks great. Why? They're like, well, the problem is it looks so good. It's so different. People drive by the building. They're looking for the green grass.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you'd get called out on that real quick around here.
Must be in the wrong spot.
Yeah.
That's
It
funny.
was-
That is really funny.
Did you see the pictures of the graffiti on the park? Our new
Yes, I
park?
did, right by my house. Yeah,
that makes me
the
mad.
2 weeks old or whatever park.
Yeah.
What's that?
They graffitied up the park, the Pleasant Valley
Pleasant
Park.
Valley, all the new park equipment.
Oh, yeah.
Marker all over it. Yeah. I have an
Sent a
idea who it
picture
is,
to-
but
Do you?
I have an idea.
Okay.
Right across the street from me.
Right. Well, what do you think? You ready?
Yeah, let's hit it.
All right.
It's get her done.
All right, it's 5:32. We're gonna call the executive session for November 4th to order. And first order of business is the enterprise fund budget. Mr. Ebensteiner.
Okay, well, Mark,
Oh. Sorry. Sorry,
Mr.
Lori.
Ebensteiner. Oh, that's all right. All right, so, on your agenda tonight, we are gonna cover the enterprise fund budgets and their CIP, components. So, before we do that, though, I wanted to give an update that Robin alluded to. Last week, Budget and Finance did meet, and, as part of that meeting, we talked about the impact of the change in assumptions for the healthcare renewal. So I know that was a question that this group had, like, what is the impact to our overall budgets of the healthcare renewal? So we had that discussion at Budget and Finance and brought the analysis forward to show kind of what the impact was. So overall, the impact of that change in assumptions is about $216,000. A portion of that goes to the employee because they share in that savings. So the employer portion of that change is about $180,000. So how that breaks out, it's not all levied funds. Some of those funds are not levied. So if we broke that down further, what we're proposing tonight, what you'll see in the enterprise budgets, is to allow that to flow through. We're gonna allow that to flow through the enterprise budgets, so their budgets will reflect that reduction. And you'll see that detail when Chris goes through that tonight. We're also recommending the impact that would go to golf to just hold. We don't want to necessarily put additional strain on their profitability. They brought a budget forward that includes profitability, and we want to just respect that, and maybe this helps them get there and overperform their budget without adding that additional stress back in. So when we take all that, what's left is about $120,000 that would impact the general fund budget if we determined that we wanted to push that back in. As a budget and finance discussion, we really recommended holding the preliminary levy where it is, rather than putting that stress back into the budget and reducing that number. Couple of reasons for that. We do believe that next year we will get a 15% increase back in that line item. And so this would take that pressure off of 27 budgeting if we determined that we didn't want to push that back in. So really, it would allow us to let that savings fall to our general fund reserve at the end of '26, assuming that all of our assumptions are good. And then we could push that back in through '27 and not use that money to offset what might increase in '27 for that healthcare cost. But we didn't want to, we wanted you to have that information, have input on that decision, whether or not you wanted to put some of it in the or from preliminary to final levy, or whether you wanted to hold. But the discussion that we had would indicate that our recommendation would be to hold the preliminary general fund budgets and levy where we have them. But certainly wanted to give you the opportunity for that information and to have input into that, because ultimately you are the decision makers. So do you?
Anybody have any thoughts?
Robin and I discussed it with the budget and finance, and that was where we landed. Is we know, this year we, due to changing providers, we got an unexpected drop on it, but we, healthcare is not decreasing. We know there's one next year, so if we can keep it to the original projected and then have a safety net for next year, well, safety that we know we'll use pretty much, it'll soften the blow next year.
Sure. So would that money be earmarked for that?
That was our request, yeah.
Yeah.
That it wouldn't just get mixed in with general fund,
Right.
that it'd actually be targeted for that.
Makes sense to me.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you for the input. With that, we will move on to the enterprise fund budgets. I'm just gonna give a hopefully brief overview, and then we'll turn it over to Chris, and he can kind of walk you through the details that he'd like to highlight. So what I wanted to start with, it's in your packet, is some of the assumptions. The key ones really are very, very similar to what you saw in the general fund and the other budgets that we've looked at. 3% general wage increase with step increases as scheduled. The one difference then between the general fund and the levied budgets is that we are pushing the healthcare assumptions back through the water and sewer, because it's really, the water and sewer budgets are set to hit a cash target, and our rate study dictates sort of what we're gonna do with rates as long as we're hitting those cash targets. So we will push those assumptions back through the detail of those budgets. Minnesota paid family medical leave will start next year, so that is budgeted for personnel like the other budgets. We did plan interest earnings a little bit less conservatively than we have in the past, closer to what we're seeing in 2025, but still a little bit on the conservative side because we're not quite sure what rates are gonna do. But we are earning interest on the cash reserves in both water and sewer, and so you'll see that reflected in their budget. On the utility side, electric utilities are an area that this group has really focused on because the water sewer plant is a big electricity user. They've done some studies, so we're hoping we're gonna see better than what we've planned on the electric utility side, but we have sort of normalized that a little bit from what we've seen in the last couple of years. The utility rate study that we presented a year ago, in 2024 to the council recommended water and sewer rate changes for the next 3 to 5 years. And so that is consistent with how this budget is put together, and that is what you'll see as an outcome of this budgeting process that we're recommending for the fee schedule for 2026. We have coordinated with planning, and we are recommending extending the SAC and WAC discount for another year, and that is what's incorporated in this budget. So if you should choose not to extend that discount, we would update these budgets to reflect that, but it wouldn't necessarily change the water and sewer rates. It's not that big of an impact, but
That ends at the end of this year, correct?
it does. It does expire in 12/31, so that's something that the council will, if you're amenable to that is what we would incorporate in the rate, or in the fee schedule. But it's really open for you guys to have that discussion. One of the reasons we wanted to do it is 'cause we know that this Luann Drive, we didn't have the results back from the grant, but we were hopeful that that might be something that we could utilize with the developers to kind of help move some of those things forward, to have that flexibility to still offer that. So that's what's in there. If you,
That would, more, I mean, if that would be a 27 project, that would, I would imagine you would put the street in first, then your development would follow, meaning that would be a 27, 28 type of project, so you'd be talking more than a year at that point, I guess, as a, something
Correct.
to consider.
that's correct. This budget just assumes a one-year extension, which probably gives us more time to talk about what that project might look like over on Luann Drive. But we're open to your input on that as well.
That's likely to be a 27 project. So, yeah, I think it's something we could discuss further, and it doesn't really have an impact on that development if it's a one-year extension.
Okay, so that can come back around when we review the fee schedule. You can have that discussion again and kind of give me some time to think through it. Domestic sewer leachate fees, we just had the resolution from Phil on the new agreement. What we have planned in there is very conservative. It assumes the same level of leachate that we expect to achieve in 2025. So anything above that, we would earmark for future plant expansion and try to keep those funds in a manner that doesn't necessarily reduce our overall rates to our consumers, but saves that money for when that plant needs to have upgrades or expansions. So it's a rather conservative approach.
That was something we had discussed at Budget Finance too, was if that does turn into be a larger amount, is that could really offset, you know, bonding in the future that you wouldn't have to do there. I know in past, councils have taken some of that leachate money and dedicated it outside of the department, and I know there's been maybe some tension there that, you know, one department earned it and everybody else is spending it, so, this would allow maybe that to, that money to stay there more, but then, you know, that would be your, partial replacement of a bond someday, cause everything out there is really expensive.
For sure.
Okay. The industrial sewer budget and their CAP plans have already been reviewed in detail with LPI. We do try to keep them informed of both capital and operational needs, and so we have had some productive meetings with them. So the rates that you see here, they have already been presented, and they, assuming this budget gets approved, they would use that for their planning because they are not on a fiscal year plan. So it's sort of a nice opportunity for us to work through that with them. Okay, and then just a couple other considerations. The 2025 legislature increased the safe drinking water service connection fee. And of course, that's not divisible by 12. So you will see two different entries on the fee schedule for that. That is a pass-through. You won't see it in the budget, but you will see it on the rate schedule because it does impact our ratepayers. So, and then finally, just the recommended actions that you're gonna see in the budget have a 3% annual increase to the monthly service fee rates. Those are the ones that are based on meter size. And then a 2% increase in usage rates for water. And a 5% increase in the domestic sewer rates for both the base rate and the usage rates. So, that is what we're recommending. That is completely in line. In fact, that slide is directly out of the last rate study that we did. And that will meet our cash needs for both water and sewer. And then the impact of that action, if you look in 2026, the monthly impact to an average household user would be $3.04 a month and $36.53 a year. So just to kind of give you some parameters on what that means to an average resident in their bill. And finally, page 3 is the fee schedule updates that you would see if you adopt this budget and the way that it's recommended. And with that, for page 4, I'm gonna turn it over to Chris. He's gonna walk you through some of the highlights that he wants to point out in his budget.
All right, thank you, Lori.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you, Lori. Thank you, Mark. I do appreciate finance's help in all this. They do a lot of work, so it means I can keep it brief and answer questions if needed. So Lori did a great job of summarizing some of the things that you see in the enterprise fund budget here. So I'll briefly touch on operating costs for each of the budgets. If you have specific questions about line items, you can ask me and I can go through that. Otherwise, I'll keep it high level. A little more detail on the CIPs, just some movements or changes that we made, and then just a summary of what we'll see next year when we work on our CIP spends. First one is the water operations budget. As Lori kind of mentioned, we look at revenues. We're estimating revenues to be down a little bit in 2026. Part of that is she uses the last 5 years of water use for the city. In 2024, our water sold was down about 8% from 2023. So we have a little down year in there, bringing the average use down, which means we're expecting a little less in utility fees coming in. And then we also have the estimation for the WAC charges is down a little bit based on that discount and what planning is estimating for 2026. So a little bit less than last year. Overall, in the operating budget, if we look at the expenditure line items, kind of outside of depreciation and the capital costs, those costs I expect to go up about 1% over 2025. So my math was about 665, 912 for 2026, and in 2025 it was 658, 396. So a difference of about $7,516. And then, as Lori kind of alluded to, overall for the water budget, we are estimating that ending cash value in the water fund would exceed the minimum targeted cash as identified in our rate study. So, no big changes in how we're spending our operational dollars. Try to cover for what we need and keep it tight if we can. So, any questions on any individual items there in the operating side, or?
Any questions for Chris? No?
Okay. And we'll go to the CIP for water. So the first set of the fancy colored pages. A little eye candy to keep your attention focused. So our total estimated capital expenditures in the water fund for 2026 would be $598,100 versus $477,100 from 2025. Some changes that we looked at in the CIP. The first one, well number 2 rehab pump replacement. So I think it was last year or the year before, we kind of laid out each of our wells and our pumps so that we can, on a timely basis, go through that, update the wiring, the pump, and if we need to do something to the well itself, like redevelop it, we can do that timely, so we're not doing it on an emergency basis when it fails. Staff have noticed a bit of a decrease in the pumping rate from well number 2. Usually we see about 150 gallons a minute. They're saying they're seeing more like 125 gallons a minute right now. So we are going to move that one up from 2030 and address that one next year to make sure we don't lose volume out of that well. Right now, that's roughly a 17% loss, so if we had a whole bunch of other extra wells we could just turn on, that'd be great, but we don't have that option, so we want to keep this one working as best we can. We have money in the CIP for well exploration. You guys are fully aware of some of the work we've been doing to try to find additional wells for the city. With our feasibility study that we're doing with SEH right now, to try to help figure out if if water treatment's the next best step or what we have to do for the city. We want to keep some money available if we decide, say, we're going to do an iron and manganese removal plant and we want to have additional wells to go through that, we would have some money to use to do further exploration in that area. So we did include $70,000 in both 2026 and 2027 to help with that means. Well house number 1, we have a refurbishment project. We've kind of pushed this one a couple of times. Again, timing is tricky. We don't want to have a well house down and not be able to use any wells during the summer months because we would be in trouble meeting our needs, demands from the city. So we've kind of pushed this a couple of times, but that well house is 1976. So most of the big electrical stuff is the original from 1976. So it's had a good run, but we do want to address that at some point here. So we'll move that to 2026. If we can get the timing worked out right, we'll try to execute that then. If not, we may have to punt one more time. We had a line item for SCADA upgrades and enhancements. When I first started with the city, we had switched from Wonderware to Factory Talk, so that's the program that we use for SCADA for monitoring alarms and those kinds of things. The idea was if we had to do that again, this would be in there as an idea to do that. I think Factory Talk is working well. We've updated our on-call program, Factory Talk. We're updating it currently. The computers that we use for SCADA, we have 3 of them. With IT now, those are listed on there, so they're replaced timely through that piece of it. So I don't really have a need to do a complete upgrade of the SCADA system as it is. So we'll push that one out 5 years to 2031, and at that time, as we get closer to that, we can assess and see if there's any bigger upgrades that need to be done, or if not, we can continue to push that. Tower number 1, interior painting, that originally was in for 2026. When we did our 2025 inspection of that tower, the report that came back did not identify any issues with that interior. Nothing that needed to be addressed immediately. The coatings were still in good shape. There was nothing that needed to be repaired. So we did push that out 5 years. We'll do another inspection again in 2030, and then we can look to see if there's any issues found then. We would look to address those in 2030 or 2031. We also, Tower 3, I originally had the coating of the lower part of the tower and the upper part separate. As we looked at it this year, staff kind of looked at me like, why do you have those separate? Those should be together. And to be honest, I'm not sure if I confused the interiors and separated them or what I did exactly, but it's all together in one now, so just combine that in the CIP, so it's I don't have them separated and done in different years, so. And the last item is the water truck number 1. When we did that replacement, due to the time to get the truck, it actually ended up being a 2021 model year. We estimate a service life of 8 years on those. So when we got that as a 2021, we originally had it to be replaced in 28. We've moved that to 29 to match that service life. And so in 2026, we plan to potentially do the rehab for well number 2. We look at some money for possible well exploration if that is necessary. The well house number 1 or Riley Avenue well house refurbishment. We will install the mixer in the upper bowl of tower number 3. This year we did the number 1 and number 2 towers and added the mixers in those. And then we also include, each year we have PLC replacement. So we've got many PLCs that run all of our different, connect with our SCADA system and relay information back and forth. Many of those are still, some of them are still original, so we're getting to the point where they need to be replaced. So in working with finance, trying to figure out the best way to do that, we got all the lists together, we worked with our integrator, we got pricing on how to replace them, like what would each one cost to replace. I've got a list, and then we decided we would just kind of start taking a few each year instead of trying to do a whole bunch at once, and then they all age out at the same time, we've got to do a whole bunch again. So kind of spread those replacements out and stay in front of that. And you'll see that PLC replacement is in all 3 of the CIPs. So water, domestic wastewater, and industrial wastewater. And that's it for the water CIP. Any questions on that one?
So for the pump, number 2, where you said it went from 150 to 125, are we sure we're pretty sure it's a pump issue, not a volume
So we would
issue?
Could be either or. We're not sure yet what it might be. We just see the decrease in the pumping rate now. So what we would do is next year we'd work with a well company. We've used Trout quite a bit in the past, so probably them. But work with a well company, have them pull the pump. They can take that into the shop, assess it, make sure the pump's okay. They can look at the wiring. If the wiring's got an issue, they can replace that. And then they can put a camera down the well and take a peek at that too. If they see there's issues down there based on that inspection, then we can take steps to try to redevelop that well. Yep. Try to cover it all.
So the interior of towers 1 and 2 are lasting obviously more, is that because we addressed the thermal stratification? I got it in there.
Yeah,
I wanted to say it.
Nerd.
I'd love to say yes, but they've only been there a year, so.
So then there,
you know,
but I mean, is that
It should, well, it.
something that would protect that?
The idea would be that if you continuously mix that through, especially the winter months, you're not gonna get this giant ice cube that'll move up and down and, peel paint off or damage metal structures. So yes, that is one of the reasons why we add the mixers, yep.
If we moved it 5 years, whatever we did must really be working. I mean, the original coating in there must be really good.
Yep. We got pretty good water too, so that helps.
Okay.
Yep. We don't get a lot of sediment in towers, that helps. I've been in other cities where you have to do a lot more annual flushing of the tower because you get a large sediment deposit on the bottom, so we're pretty good that way. But, yep.
Awesome.
Okay.
All right, any other questions about water? All right. Sewer next?
Yep, we'll go on to the domestic sewer first. All right, so again, our domestic, the revenues on the domestic sewer side are similar to the water. Obviously, it's based on, usage does have a factor into that. So again, the average over the last 5 years, is down a little, so we're expecting a little bit there. Overall, the revenue is up for our estimation because we do have the leachate coming in, so that does help offset some of that as well. Let's see what I have here. Yeah, I think that's enough there. If we look at the operating budget for the domestic side, outside of, again, the depreciation and the capital costs, the total budget in 2026 is estimated to be about 1% more than it was in 2025. 2026, the total is 909,402, and in 2025, it was 902,292. So a difference of about $7,100. So again, not a huge difference from last year. And again, with that, the sewer budget, we are again, the ending cash in that domestic fund is again exceeds the minimum target cash, as Lori has laid out in our rate study. So looking pretty good there operationally. Is there any particular line item there that anybody has any questions about that they would like further clarification?
Insurance went down quite a bit. Is there, does that usually ebb and flow, or is that based on usage, or?
Well, I mean, that's property and casualty insurance is part of that, right? And then health insurance went down as well.
Our property and casualty modifier went down significantly in the quote for
Cool.
next year, so.
Yeah, that was a way better answer.
Anything else on sewer for Chris?
Otherwise, I can do the domestic sewer CIP.
Perfect.
All right. This one isn't quite as fancy color, but it's got a little color in there. All right, we'll go through. So our total estimated capital expenditures for 2026 are looking to be $235,350 versus $668,580 in 2025. So not quite as many CIP projects in 2026 as we had this year. A couple of changes to note in the 2026 CIP. Again, we had the SCADA upgrades and enhancements. We moved that out to 5 years, similar to what we did in the water. At the wastewater facility, we have a workman utility vehicle. It's kind of like a golf cart on steroids. Staff use it, go around the plant, collect samples, those kinds of things. The original life expectancy was, we set when we bought it 12 years, not really sure exactly usage and how long it would last. It gets used, but it also, in the wintertime, we use the Toolcat more because it can plow snow and has a heater. So due to the usage and the current condition of that, we look to extend it out to 15 years life, move that out to 2031, so. And then the wastewater facility crane truck, it's kind of similar to that Workman. It's a very valuable piece of equipment for the city. We use it to pull pumps, so we can do our regular maintenance on pumps and our check pumps when they have issues. That being said, it does not get used a ton, not compared to just a regular passenger truck that you and I would drive around. So we decided to move that life expectancy from 27 to 2032, so move it out to 20 years total. The truck and crane are in very good shape. We have the crane inspected annually. It's an OSHA requirement, but they check it, make sure it's working. There's no indications that it's got any issues that would need big attention. The truck is in very good shape. It had just over 25,000 miles on it the other day when I checked, so it's got low mileage. Yeah, so it should last us a long time, so right now we'll look to move that out a little further.
Is that a diesel or a gasser?
That's gas. Yep. Yep. Next items, we did a little bit of moving around with some of our lift station maintenance. So a couple things I'll just throw out there for your guys' information before I get into what moves we did. Staff do an annual lift station inspection every year, so every lift station in the city gets inspected annually. During the annual inspection, the pumps are pulled and inspected, so just look at general condition on the outside. They check all the sensor cables and power cables, make sure there's no nicks or any issues there. They'll tip the pump over, they'll check wear ring spacing and that, make sure that's in good condition. They check the oil. If it looks like it needs replacement, they'll replace it. And they also will take a quick look down in the wet well. If it looks like we have a lot of debris collected down there, then they'll take the vac truck out and clean the wet well, which helps keep that abrasive material from going through the pumps, which can take away from pump life. So that's done annually. In addition, staff do a monthly check of the lift stations. During the monthly check, they check the functionality of all the alarms in the station, so make sure it calls out. Check the high-level floats, power, no power. They check the UPS to make sure those batteries are in good shape, so we get backup signal from the station even if power is not at the station. So that helps keep staff informed if there's something going on. And then they pull for the ones that still use floats to activate pumps, they pull those floats and clean them because the floats do get some stuff on them that could hinder their operation. So monthly they'll clean those. And then finally, we do have staff that go out Mondays and Thursdays and check each lift station. So Mondays and Thursdays they go out, they'll record pump run times. They usually run the pumps just to make sure everything looks good, it's not tripped out, check the resets. That way we can watch run times and make sure there's no issues to surprise us and everything's working the way it should. We do have that information available on SCADA, but I like actually being there and checking it. It feels a little better to me. So we figured twice a week is kind of a good thing. You check it Monday after the weekend, everything looks good. You check it again Thursday before the weekend. Shouldn't have any issues then that way. And we do have alarms at all lift stations, but those are alarms, they're computers, and sometimes they have their own issues too. So again, not usually, but I still like being there. So just wanted you guys to be kind of aware of that if you weren't aware of what we did do to make sure our lift stations are taken care of and operating properly. With that said, lift station 14 was due to be a panel and pump replacement in 2027. We did move that up to 2026 based on these inspections. Staff felt that those pumps needed to be addressed a little sooner. Lift station 12, pump and panel replacement, we moved that up to 2027 from 2028. Lift station 13, pump and panel replacement, we moved up to 2028 from 2029. And then lift station 15, pump and panel replacement, we pushed out to 29 from 26. So that's more, again, based on our annual inspections, what the pumps look like, what kind of runtime do they have. Obviously, the pump run times at every station are gonna vary kind of depending upon what flows they get and that kind of thing. So, so just a little bit of shuffling of the deck there to make sure we're addressing the ones that need attention sooner, and the ones that don't, we push out a little bit. And then trying to keep our spends kind of as a even keel, not so much a whole bunch one year and then not much the next year, Nice, easy rivers, right? And slow, yep, okay, Phil, forget that. So that's all kind of the changes we had from the domestic CIP. Then just kind of the projects planned for 2026 then. The ToolCAD has gone through its service life and it's due for replacement. That's split between the domestic and the industrial sewer funds. Domestic headwork, building HVAC. So the MCC room has its own heating and cooling unit. That's due for replacement. Domestic headworks, the roof on that building, it's 08, so that's original. So that's due for replacement. Again, we have the PLC replacements on there. The biofilter main blowers, we have pushed those out a little bit, but they're aged, they're from 08 as well. So we look to replace those. That's split between the domestic and the industrial. And those, again, are the units that basically pull air out of domestic headworks, industrial headworks. We've tapped in now, you can pull air out of the influent lift station, and it also can pull air out of the EQ tanks on the industrial side. So you can kind of pull that air out and it pushes it through a biofilter to kind of clean it and keep those environments okay for operators to be in. And then lift station 11 has pump replacement and lift station 14 has pump and panel replacement. And that's everything for next year for the CAP and the domestic sewer CAP. Okay, any questions on that?
Doesn't look like it.
Okay. Now we'll go on to the industrial sewer fund. Revenues for the industrial sewer fund obviously are based on the tier 1 and 2 rates that LPI pays per 1,000 gallons that they deliver to our wastewater facility. Lori had a note in her intro there kind of about the change in those rates, which was discussed with LPI. Mark and Lori have done a really good job connecting with LPI, making sure that, working with me to make sure everything looks good in our budgets. And then we convey that information to Liberty Paper to make sure they're aware of what we're doing, what our costs are related to, and why we need the funds that we need and why we charge the rates we do. One item we can touch on from the expenditure side, there's a line item for ditch cleaning. Let's see, do I have a number in here? 981, thank you. I did put it in my notes somewhere, but I don't see it. Line 81 ditch cleaning, we've kind of played with that number a little bit. So the material that comes from Liberty Paper, when the product gets into the ditches, as it gets aerated and moved, there's a tendency for a lot of calcium carbonate to drop out, and we get large deposits in the ditch, so much so that it'll take up treatment capacity. So if you have 600,000 gallons in the ditch, we've had ditches that are probably 50% full with material. So you lose a lot of treatment capacity. So in order to kind of stay on top of that, we like to clean them out. The first time we did, I think it was about $54,000 to clean one. So it's a fairly big spend. We were looking to maybe clean one and maybe we could wait a while and clean another one. So we were gonna have so much in the budget each year and then clean one maybe every other year. That hasn't worked out quite the way we wanted it to. So this year we cleaned another ditch. This year it was right around 70,000 was the estimate that we got to do it. They did a partial clean and then the material got a little wet, so they had to stop. But I think we spent a little over 50 grand cleaning a ditch again this year. So we kind of kicked it back up to the old number. You know, we'll clean one ditch every year until we kind of get on top of it, and then we can maybe adjust again. So a little bit of change there, which did account for a little bit of an increase in our spend in our operational side. I think that's kind of the main things for the revenue and ops budget for industrial sewer. Any questions on that?
I had a question on line 18.
Yep.
For the revenue. So if you kind of track the, the revenue going back there, so 612, 636, 682, 655. We're 571 right now. We're targeting 771. I guess what do we see as the reason for that? What we think will be the big jump?
Well, the flows are pretty consistent from them, so we're not gonna probably see a big change in flows. But we did, so starting the rates for both the tier 1 and tier 2 will increase partway through the year. So that's part of that where we would see additional costs or additional revenue coming in from that.
We think, okay.
The year-to-date number on here in column R reports 9 months, not 10, so we did go through their volume projections in detail with them for how much monthly volume they expect to be running. But we just try to be pretty straight up with them because they know they have to pay for the operation. So they know that if their volume is lower, then their rate next year is gonna be higher because we're gonna recover the costs for running their facility, so.
Yeah, I did have a note in here. That's kind of, it's obviously our goal with them is you cover the cost to operate the facility. We're not trying to make money off of it necessarily, and we can adjust those rates accordingly, but unfortunately, costs haven't been going down, they've been going up, so. Okay. And then we'll go to the CIP. All right, industrial CIP, it's a little bit smaller than a domestic one, not a ton of changes here. We know the SCADA upgrades and enhancements and moving that out. We kind of talked about the workman utility vehicle, that we're pushing the life of that from 12 to 15 years, so that moves out to 2031. And probably the one item that's specific to the industrial here, we have hanging units in the press building. When those were installed, let's see, the environment in the press building is drastically improved. The new MAU unit is moving air much better in there. When we had the old belt presses, it was a very wet, moist environment, hot, cold, that kind of thing, which was hard on any metal surfaces. So the old hanging units, when they were replaced, were pretty rough shape. The environment now with the new presses, it's much more enclosed. We have much less humidity in the building, so things are lasting much longer. So with those hanging units, we did decide to push the life out to 15 years, so extend them by 5 years. So we moved the replacement from 2028 to 2033. And we kind of I did some research, and a hanging unit, anywhere from 15 to 25 years is kind of a common life cycle. So initially we kind of hedged our bets if they didn't stand up in the environment very well, 10 years. But now that the environment is better, they seem like they're staying in better shape. So we'll push them out a little bit and get some more life out of them. Projects planned then for 2026 would be, again, the toolcat, which is shared between the two CIPs, PLC replacements, and then the biofilter main blowers, which is shared between domestic and industrial. And that's about all I had for the industrial CIP. Any questions on that one?
Looks good.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chris.
You're welcome.
I'll just touch on one item as Chris was talking about the CIP for the industrial. Just as a reminder for council, industrial, the 2016 A bonds that are related to LPI that they pay directly, that final payment will be September 1st of 26. So that's coming up soon. It was a 10-year bond. After that, as part of the agreement, they'll start paying the city an annual, actually it'll be a quarterly capital payment. So they'll pay us $225,000 annually. That'll support capital. So much like you see the rates per thousand support operations, there's the capital contribution that will support capital. So it'll be like $56,250 each quarter that they'll pay. That will roll right into there. So that's one thing where there's also a minimum. So they'll pay that, plus there's a minimum of $250,000 that's required to be in capital. So through those kind of semi-annual meetings, that's a lot of the communication with LPI on what Chris and his staff are identifying as capital needs and then what is necessary to maintain that. So just wanted to kind of cover a little bit of the funding piece on the capital side, since that's a little bit outside of just the general piece and not necessarily where we budget for. We're kind of tracking on the backside of some of those minimum cash balances that we need for that fund.
So if they make the last payment in September of 26, when did they actually start with those 56?
Yep, so February 1st, 26 would be last payment, so it was agreed upon that second quarter of 26 would be the first payment. We'll invoice them, so we'll get 3 payments in 26, and then we'll continue on the 4 payments. And initially, we're gonna start, that balance will start growing, but once you get 6 to 8 years out, based on some of the projections, we'll spend that down and then need some more. So we'll work with them if they wanna pay a little bit more each year to kind of fund that for some of those future years, and continue to work with Chris and his staff as some of those other items come into play on how the facility's performing over time and some of the needs there, so.
Yeah, I think it was like a 20-year, it was like the first 10 were their payments, then I think that second 10 was and then I think at year 20 was when a lot of, so 10 years from now, I guess, that was when we were thinking there'd be a lot of, some bigger hits. So.
Very good, thank you.
All right, thank you. Need anything else on the enterprise fund? All right, move on to the city council meeting schedule. Shannon?
Oh, okay. Thank you for having me this evening. You have before you the proposed meeting schedule for 2026. Meetings are traditionally held on the first and third Tuesday at 5 p.m. There are a couple of conflicting dates in 2026, so we're proposing that the conflict on Tuesday, August 4th for National Night Out be moved, the council meeting be moved to Wednesday, August 5th. And Tuesday, November 4th is a general election, so we're proposing the council meeting be moved to Wednesday, November 5th. And then there will be 2 additional proposed meetings in 2026. The annual joint fire board meeting is set for Monday, July 20th at 8 p.m. And with the general election, there's the need to canvass. So that has been set for Tuesday, November 10th.
I think your, November ones are off a day, cause today's November 4th, so it'd have to be the, is it third, yeah, I think, but we'd be a day off, yeah.
Be November 4th, November 3rd is the
Well, yeah, if they're
general
only a
election.
calendar, if you had a calendar.
Yes, if you'd use your calendar.
Oh, shoot, what are they?
The date on here is right. The election date is November 3rd. So it would be Wednesday, November 4th.
So yeah, it'd be on the.
Okay.
The memo has the, but yeah, that has it right.
This has it right. Okay, that's wrong. I didn't read that part.
Okay, the RCA
Yep.
has RCA is incorrect, but the actual meeting, so, okay,
Yep.
sorry about that. Okay. Is there anything else?
Those are usually the two that we, National Night Out and Election Day.
Yep.
Oh, primary day.
That is the second Tuesday in August.
The second, okay.
2026, so it did not affect the August meetings.
All right.
And there's no canvassing that happens with the
Yeah.
primary.
Is border review considered a council meeting in April?
I don't think so.
No, because that usually isn't set until we don't hear from the county till.
Right, then we set it when we know for the county sets it.
Yep.
And I think we're kind of wearing like different hats on that one, aren't we? Isn't that like, we're actually serving as a board? Yeah.
Shannon, just for a note, and probably you should have known this a long time ago, our park and rec meetings are starting at 5 o'clock, not 5:30.
Oh, okay. 5 p.m. Okay, thank you for that.
Yep,
I'll make sure we change that.
thank you.
All right, anything else on the council dates?
Okay, if that's okay, then I'll go on the consent agenda at the next meeting for a resolution.
Sounds
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you.
All right, Greg, draft CUC resolution?
Yes, I draft is at the dais for you. I wasn't here for the discussion at the last meeting, but as I understood it from staff, the council is looking to come back with a resolution to basically support those initiatives. And so I drafted up a resolution. If you want it modified, there's certainly a time to do that. Otherwise, I would look to put this on the next council agenda along with the attachment from the Coalition of Utility Cities for next year's initiatives.
Sounds good. Anybody have anything else they want in there?
So, I know originally it was, so the county specifically has a, we support nuclear, is a very targeted, type of resolution here, I guess. Would this be of the similar voice, but just more items type of?
Right, the county is not a member of the CUC, so, I guess this was really geared towards the membership in that organization for us. And so it is listed there as supporting, and that can be as vociferous as we want it to be once we get into session. I mean, certainly if that's something you wanted to highlight, I can certainly revise the resolution.
I mean, it does, it does say it, so I mean, it's not, we are passing a resolution that does, say we would support further discussion about repealing it.
Yep.
So, okay. You think there needs to be something stronger about that?
You want to say nuclear specifically?
I mean, we have it in here already. I don't know. I mean, it does say Minnesota's moratorium on new nuclear generation.
If you want, we could not do this as an attachment, and I can reorder this list and put it at the top.
Like, I know you, cause you had missed the last one. I mean, we talked about like this, the one with those grants or
You're right.
yeah, and you know, I mean, if they're there, great, but you know, to go out and champion them is really hard to
Yeah,
do.
it shouldn't be a second priority. Actually, in my judgment, the first priority is clarifying the statute-related energy transition aid, and then it probably becomes the nuclear issue.
Yeah, if we're looking for what we'd like to see, the quick hit first, that's, I think, yeah, the clarification is probably, that affects us the most right away.
Yep.
So, I don't know. I mean, it's a statement, I guess. You know, it's not like anybody's gonna march to a different beat of a drum based off, you know, if we reword the statement, but.
Maybe it'll be more personalized for Becker if I incorporate these recommendations right into the resolution and say they're ours. And reorder. Because I think that's how Sherburne's is, right? Theirs is all in the resolution. There's no attachments, just there.
Yeah, it was just literally, you know, the county does, you know, we host the Sherco generating plant, we do this, we support this, therefore. I'd be good with that.
And we could also add to keep the Sherco facility operating.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Should we sneak one in there about the post office too?
Or the post office.
I thought your t-shirts were subtle enough. Okay, I think I have direction.
Okay. People good with that? All right, roundtable.
I have a question. OMG Midwest, are we gonna be all done with them before they're done?
Yeah, for the most part.
Tony's not here. Comes in the front door though.
Need to get that
I
tomorrow.
have a little trauma, so.
Your phone's buzzing.
Yeah, the majority of their work, in all likelihood, what we'll have remaining is a little bit of turf establishment that we can't prove out. It's not seating, so we can't see it. So once, probably at the end of this week, we'll know exactly where we sit with that and see what that dollar amount is, and if we need to try and negotiate that out of the contract, so we can close the contract out and hold that on some sort of guarantee, or we don't wanna hold a lot of retention if we don't need to, so they can close the books, but yet we're satisfied or made whole with it. So I would anticipate by Friday or Monday that we should know exactly where we sit, but it'll be very, very small. Okay?
Fantastic. Anything else?
I had three things, Mark.
Yes.
Just a couple quick things, all of them. We do have our kickoff meeting on the 1025 intersection engineering planning project next Wednesday. So we'll have a stakeholders meeting and get the ball rolling on that. We do have a tentative agreement with the police union for 2027 contract, and police union just reached out today, and we're working on a date to schedule before year end. So
1 year or how many?
it is a 1-year contract, that is correct. That's where we ended up. Largely had to do, we proposed a 3. As council knows, we're gonna be doing the salary study next year. And I think we're all kind of like, yeah, why don't we just see where that is? We're all comfortable with the 1 year. There were a couple of other things they had brought up that we weren't comfortable with. They weren't brought up in September, they were brought up at a subsequent meeting. And this just provides the opportunity to just step back a little bit and say, we'll just look at all these things and let's start next July. visiting about these things. So it is a 1 year. They initially came in with a 2 year, so I would suspect that we'll either have a 2 or 3 year contract for the council to consider next December. That was it?
No? Is that three?
That was 3. Two contracts and? 2 contracts in the engineering meeting. That's 3.
Oh, okay. All right, anything from anybody else? Chris, I had a quick question. I got an email today from the state about energy audit grants. Have we ever had an energy audit at?
I mean, we worked with LTAP and did some energy work. Yep. Slide me upside the head. Yep. We did some work with LTAP to do some energy efficiency studies at the wastewater and water facilities. We worked with Minnesota Rural Water and did that. I mean, Rural Water had some grant opportunities maybe you could do for like lighting in one well house and that. We haven't pursued that yet because it's pretty minimal. And then we didn't do any grant things through Cascade Energy, but we did apply for several rebates from some HVAC projects and different things we had hanging out there. And then we did complete the capacitor upgrade on the industrial side, which is addressing the power factor issue that side had. So, but we haven't applied for any grants or anything, no.
All right, maybe I'll just forward it to you. You can look
Okay.
at it and
Sure.
tweet it if you want.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, keep writing your letters, post office. I did hear that, I saw a letter that Senator Klobuchar wrote back to a resident saying she's open to congressional inquiry into it, which apparently is a good thing. So that's one new development. And my contact in Colorado said, well, you know, we're looking at things, and I'm like, yeah, I'm aware of that. So that's the other thing he told me. We're gonna bring something back, and I said, when they don't know that, so. I think they're feeling some pressure, so I think it's helping.
I don't think the shutdown's really helping us right now, cause I know a lot of the congressional staff are back home.
Right.
Cause it's literally 3 people making the decision on this whole thing right now, so.
Yeah.
Everybody else, there's nothing for them to do, so.
I got t-shirts in my truck if anybody wants one tonight. All right, we have anything else? All right, we'll adjourn the executive session at 6:27. Thanks, everybody.
Don't be making noise like that.
That was Phil digging a trench.